bullied and dumped on. We gon' leave you beat up, bullied and dumped on. We said we only rock with Mavericks. If you're a clone, then step off the canvas.
Hello and welcome to the season 19 premiere of The Box Score. I am your host, Noah Berkowitz, and man, does it feel good to be back. We've got a great season ahead with new talent, new content, and lots of new surprises. So, without further ado, let's jump right in. Joining me to recap the Eagles' rout of the Chiefs in the Super Bowl to clinch Philly's second Lombardi trophy is Evan Sharrard and Everest Leach. Evan, what was the big difference maker in this one?
It's not often you're going to hear this from me, but Philadelphia had the better players, and they had the better game plan, and it showed. Also, I think one of the biggest things here was Kansas City. Usually you don't see a team get that unlucky, especially after the narrative publicly was how lucky this team is. Yeah. The refs are on their side, yada, yada, yada. You hear that all over social media. I'm going to touch on it later in the show, but there's one play in specific that really encapsulated that whole thing. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, their luck ran out. They couldn't stop a stunt blitz for their life.
Right. No. And I think they got dominated in the trenches.
Yes, and that's 100%. Where you win and lose games. And I don't know why this is somehow a secret or some lost art. But Philadelphia and Howie Roseman, the way that they've drafted, the way that they value the line play, that's how you win football games. It all starts there, and it ends there, too.
Absolutely. I mean, Philly has had the best offensive line in the league probably over the last half decade.
Yeah, and their defensive line. Yeah. The defensive line in that game looked like the best I'd seen since
Jalen Carter was outstanding.
Yeah.
Jalen Carter, Josh Sweat.
Yeah. There's a real the more interesting conversation with the Philly O-line and D-line is how many of them are going to leave in free agency.
Yeah.
There's a real chance you lose 5-6 guys.
Yeah.
Who could just get major paydays.
Sure. Yeah.
But I mean, we're talking about this game specifically.
Sure.
I think a big aspect of that is the pressure that the D-line put on Patrick Mahomes.
Oh yeah.
But the mistakes that Patrick Mahomes made because of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think because of that, like when you get pressure on a quarterback, that was the same game plan. I think the Giants always talked about it. It's like, how did you beat the 16-0 Patriots? Hit Tom Brady 100 million times?
Yeah. Right.
They pressure him as much, hit him again. That's how you win games against the best quarterbacks. It's not, well, we don't play zone, we don't play man. It doesn't really matter what you're calling. You have to hit the quarterback. The Eagles did that. The offensive line couldn't hold up for Kansas City. And Kansas City's defense, I didn't see a quarterback spy more than maybe 3 or 4 times in that game, and that was a really key mistake.
I'm going to read a great stat for you. The Eagles didn't blitz.
Yeah.
No.
They didn't blitz one time.
Yeah.
They, out of every defensive play, and they were on the defensive side of the ball a lot, given the fact that their offense was putting up so many points, never blitzed.
When you can drop 7 into coverage every single play, and you have the best quarterback in the league on the other side of the ball, and you're getting 6 sacks in a game, I don't know how you're not going to win a Super Bowl with that. That's an incredible advantage.
I tend to agree. Now, Everest, you are our resident Eagles fan, so please tell us, how are you feeling, first of all?
Well, Noah, I am just giddy. The Philadelphia Eagles, my Philadelphia Eagles, I've lived in Philadelphia. I fell in love with sports in Philadelphia. Mm-hmm. I love this team, and this was as dominant of a team performance in a Super Bowl as I can remember. You go back, maybe the Seahawks against the Peyton Manning Broncos, but this team was on another level, and you can talk about the defense. I mean, Kansas City didn't cross midfield until the end of the third quarter. That's ridiculous.
It is.
But I also want to give Jalen Hurts his flowers here. Mm-hmm. Jalen Hurts is someone who's been doubted, who's been disrespected pretty much his entire career in the NFL, and I get he's maybe not the ideal quarterback that we've come to expect the quarterback position to look like, but he's a winner, dude. 2 Super Bowls he's played in.
If you want to know the QB stat.
2 Super Bowls he's played in, 109 passer rating across the 2 Super Bowls combined. He's been excellent, 3 total touchdowns, 290 yards, and the one thing the Chiefs did well was shut down Saquon. That was the one thing they did well, and Hurts was still able to make him pay, and that's why that score was 40-22 and not 27 to 14.
And you know, that 22 was a lot of garbage time. Yeah. I do want to say, before we move on to our next segment, pointing out something that happened at the end of last season.
I know where you're going.
Everest, at the beginning of last season, said that the Eagles should fire Nick Sirianni.
Yeah.
He then doubled down on it during Hot Take Take Back at the end of the year and said, I'm standing by it. They've got to get rid of him. And now Super Bowl champs. What's the feeling?
You know, sometimes you're wrong. Sometimes
It takes
you're wrong.
a real man to admit that.
I'll ask a question. Do you care that you're wrong? Probably
Absolutely
not.
not. Absolutely not. We're Super Bowl champs, baby. Super Bowl champions.
Wait, listen, we got to move on. Thank you guys so much. Evan, we're going to be hearing more from you later on in the Super Bowl. But for a second, we're going to discuss the fallout of the blockbuster Luka Doncic trade. Joining me with some interesting angles are Cam Veal, Everest Leach once more, and Nandan Nair. Now, Cam, your thoughts on the trade aren't necessarily based on the actual basketball being played on the floor.
I'm more concerned with how this is going to play out for the locker room.
Right.
Because, I mean, it was all over the news. Nobody except Nico Harrison knew that this trade was happening.
Right.
Luka didn't know. The team didn't know.
Danny Ainge from the Utah Jazz, who was the facilitator of that trade, didn't even know.
Nobody knew. Jason Kidd didn't know.
Crazy.
It was a blockbuster trade. Everybody remembers where they were when this trade happened. And if I'm a Mavs player, I'm worried because the Mavs higher-ups have come out and said that, Luka wasn't part of the culture. He is the culture of this team. He's your superstar player.
He was Dallas.
He was Dallas. I mean, I wouldn't pay that much attention until Luka was part of this team. And now that he's gone, there's a hole to fill. But then people are saying that, they didn't appreciate his work ethic, that he was fat. If your fat player is putting up 20-plus points a night, triple doubles, I don't care. He can be as fat as he wants. Shaquille O'Neal was a big guy too.
And he's the best center of all time.
Exactly.
Hate to break it to you, but
Most
how
dominant
about
ever.
Nikola Jokic?
Yeah.
People made fun of him for being
Not
fat.
exactly the standard of fitness.
Exactly.
Right, and had won 3 out of the last 4
MVPs.
Not bad.
These guys, they're putting their hearts on the line for the teams, and this is how you repay them. Even if I'm if I'm a Mavs prospect, I'm worried how this is gonna play out. If I'm Nico Harrison, I'm going to the locker room, I'm seeing the players. I don't think they're gonna want to talk to me. Right. It makes no sense. And Mavs fans have been holding funerals outside of the stadium
I saw.
and protesting. You lost your locker room, you lost your fans, you've lost your coach, you've lost the respect of the entire basketball world. I don't know how they're going to recover from this unless they find some generational. If they get Cooper Flag, I don't know.
Firing Nico Harrison would be a start.
Well, someone chanted that and they got escorted out by security. So it's kind of telling, it's a little. I'm getting a little worried about what's going to happen in Dallas.
What I do gotta say is, people were raising the red flags when that video came out last year of Nico Harrison taking the beer out of Luka Doncic's hand after the playoff win.
Foreshadowing.
And now, I don't want to be that was the big conspiracy theory. But Luka was reportedly shocked that he was traded. He couldn't believe it. He had recently bought a new house in Dallas. He had recently settled down in Dallas. He became a member of Dallas culture. Dallas has a Luka Doncic Day. There's a Luka Doncic Day in Dallas.
Yeah.
And like you said, if I'm a member of that team or a member of a locker room around the league, let alone the Mavericks, I'm feeling scared because it's who is untouchable?
Right.
We were getting rumors of Kevin Durant getting traded at the deadline. Jimmy Butler obviously got traded at the deadline, who we're going to talk about later. Who is untouchable now? If Luka Doncic isn't untouchable, if Anthony Davis isn't untouchable, who's untouchable? If
Ronnie
I'm a guy
James.
in the locker room,
Ronnie James,
Ronnie James.
Ronnie James.
If I'm a member of a locker room, like you're saying, I'm scared. You don't know what's coming next.
100%.
Everest,
Yeah.
you have a different take on this as well.
Yeah, well, first I'd like to say there's a lot being said about this trade that I agree with in terms of Luka's an amazing player. Anthony Davis, they didn't get quite enough for him. He's not maybe what Luka is. And there's a lot of subjectivity going into this that I tend to agree with people on. But there's one thing that I can point to and say this was objectively organizational malpractice by the Mavs.
100%.
And that is, they didn't shop him around at all.
Right.
They made a deal in the night. They found one trade suitor in the Lakers, and they just sent it. Now, I'm going to use an analogy real quick.
Okay.
Let's say that I own a house. I know, tough ask in this economy. But let's say that I own a house.
That's
and
not what you're imagining.
It's a nice, pretty expensive house that I bought. But
You're living well.
but I want a house that's in a different location, a little bit, downsized, going to fit my needs a little bit better. At least that's what I think.
Right.
So I buy that house. It's cheaper than the other one. I move into it. And now I've got to sell the expensive house. Do I sell it for less than it's worth just because I want to get out of it and there's something that maybe I think fits me better? No, you get as much as you can for that house, and the Mavs did not do that.
And it's like it came out today, obviously, that the Mavericks allegedly did try and trade for Anthony Edwards. Did try and
Would've
trade
been better.
for other stars around the league. But I don't understand how
Make it public.
Exactly.
Let the Rockets come and
start a bidding war. You're going to look at a team like the Oklahoma City Thunder, who have the next
Insane amount.
20 years worth of 5-year-olds to pick from when they're about to draft. You're going to tell me that you're not going to take 30 picks? I agree
for
with you.
Luka Doncic.
For Luka Doncic.
It came out that Nico Harrison vacationed with the Lakers GM, and that's why he picked the Lakers.
Of course.
We'll see.
Of course.
But Nandan, you have our final take on this.
Yeah, of course. So, I think we can go back and forth talking about did the Mavs win this, did the Lakers win this? Well, we know who won this. But I'm going to go on a limb here and say Adam Silver won this trade.
Yes.
Objectively.
Yeah.
Because,
Absolutely.
look, we had a talk, I think, maybe 1 season or 2 seasons ago about the next face of the NBA, right?
Yes.
And it's very clear.
It was our
look,
season finale 2 seasons ago.
Yes, exactly. Wow, you remember that. Wow.
Listen, I got it. It's my job.
And we talked about who the next face of the NBA be. And there's a lot of names thrown around. We talked about Anthony Edwards. We talked about Jason Tatum.
Right.
And another one we talked about was Luka Doncic. And as we've talked about, he has absolutely the style and the pedigree to be that. I wrote some stats down. Luka in the playoffs in 50 games is averaging 30.9 points per game, 9.4 rebounds, and 8 assists. There's only one player in history that's averaging more right now or ever, and that's Michael Jordan.
Okay.
Already
Pretty
pretty
good
great
company.
Pretty
Pretty
good
good
company to be in.
Elite.
But the one thing we talked about that limited him in these next phase of the NBA talks is his franchise. Objectively, the Mavericks are a bit more of a smaller market. They're
absolutely.
not.
Dallas is not LA.
Dallas is not exactly. It's not LA. Yeah. And historically, when we look at it, the face of the NBA has been at a team like the Lakers or at the Celtics
Or at the Bulls.
Or in the Bulls, exactly. There's a couple of trademark teams. And so going to the Lakers, I think, is the perfect fit for him. It makes him the next face of the franchise, and it gives the Lakers, something to move on from LeBron. So.
Yeah, it was really funny because, Adam Silver won this trade. It was very much so a taking China away from the Super Bowl type of moment. But regardless, thank you guys for your awesome analysis. Now, we're going to swing the rock back to football. We're bringing back a fan favorite segment based purely on the X's and O's. That's right, it's Evan's Film Room, Super Bowl edition. Evan, take us through it.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Film Room. Thank you, Noah. And this is going to be a little bit less of X's and O's than I think you might be expecting from here. But before we get into the play, before we click play from the control room, keep an eye right here on this little silver part. No, we have Zach Bond. He's sitting right here. And this is a 1st and 10 from the Chiefs goal line. So they turn the ball over here. It's pretty costly. 17-0 in the Super Bowl. 1st and 10, minute and 49 to go. Let's roll the clip, just see what happens here. This is a microcosm, in my opinion, of what happened in this game. So Mahomes gets pressured on the left side by Sweat. And as we're going to see here in the replay here, Zach Bond comes away with an incredible interception that usually you don't see players come down with. Now, Kansas City, they've been talking about it in the media all season long. They've been really lucky. Right here, Josh Sweat pushes in the offensive line, hitting Mahomes' leg. And usually one thing that's so incredible about Patrick Mahomes is when he's throwing off platform, he's able to center his body. So even when his leg is coming down, instead of being sideways, he's more straight up. So even though he's not getting the power to propel from his legs, he's still making throws accurately because he's still got that same platform. But here he's off platform. It's a rarity. He got hit a lot in that game. It was really an incredible display by the Philadelphia Eagles defense. Zach Bond, a guy who's not making too much money, is going to get a big payday soon, whether it's from Philadelphia or another team. This has been an exciting season to wrap up. Thank you all for tuning into the Film Room. We're going to be right back with some NBA trade deadline talk. We got some new talent coming on. Stay tuned for that. This has been Evan's Film Room. Go Birds.
All right, come back in 10 seconds. Ready, camera one. Camera one, get a wide shot of the entire thing, and in 3, 2, 1, Take talent cue.
Welcome back to Emerson College. Emerson
Camera
trails
4, get a shot of the players coming across the court.
10 seconds left. Emerson trails by 1 point. As the
Camera
team
2 close on the
finishes
person
their
shooting.
timeout. Thanks, Joe. With 10 seconds left, Emerson is hoping to pull away and score this game.
Camera 1 gonna close to follow them over.
Emerson trails WPI 10 points. 10 seconds left. Emerson trails by 1 point as the team finishes their timeout.
Camera 1 close up on number 33.
Thanks, Joe. With 10 seconds left, Emerson is hoping to pull away.
Follow the ball, follow the ball.
Welcome back to the season 19 premiere of the Box Score. Now, the Luka Doncic trade wasn't the only thing keeping Shams busy around NBA deadline day, so here to help debrief the major changes around the league and how it could affect the standings, I'm joined by Titus Graves and Nandan Nair. Now, Titus, you've got one to get us started.
Yes, Noah. I want to talk about Brandon Ingram. He was traded to the Raptors, Toronto Raptors, for Bruce Brown, Kelly Olynyk, and 2 draft picks. And today, he actually signed a 3-year, $120 million contract with the Raptors. I feel like the Raptors won this trade. Sorry, Pelicans. You guys have DeJounte Murray out for the season. Y'all don't know what to do with Zion Williamson. He's going to just sign millions and millions of money with the Jordan brand. But let's talk about this guy, Brandon Ingram, a guy that's versatile, knows how to score, knows how to get to the rim, knows how to ISO, get his defender, don't know what to do. And let's just talk about how Brandon Ingram is that offensive threat. He can shoot the ball off the dribble. He can spot up. He's really a guy that could score the ball, clutch. He's a great ISO player, get his teammates involved. And I know Scotty Barnes, I know RJ Barrett, I know the Toronto Raptors fans love this pick. I know they are excited to see Brandon Ingram coming from the Pelicans. I feel like he's a 3-level scorer, get that defensive height, versatile end, and I just feel like Toronto Raptors, you guys have a great offensive threat. What do you have, Nandan?
Yeah, thank you, Titus. Well, I got Jimmy Butler moving over to the Warriors. Really big superstar play. He's going over to the Warriors, and Andrew Wiggins is going to the Heat. Jimmy Butler and the Heat, they had a really weird end to their relationship. Obviously, Jimmy Butler asked for a trade. Pat Riley came out and said, no, it's not happening. A bunch of suspensions, fines, all of this stuff happening. I think they really just had to get rid of him at the end of the day, as bad as it was. But, I think this is a really interesting pick for the Warriors. I think they're bringing in a guy. They're trying to maximize Steph Curry's window right now, and I think they're bringing in, obviously, a incredibly caliber player, We talk about playoff Jimmy a lot, He's been instrumental for the Heat. But my big question right now is he's now coming over to a team where he's not the focal point. Steph Curry is. And so how is he going to really mesh with this team? I think it's yet to be seen. But Titus, who do you have next?
I have DeAndre Hunter. I'm from Atlanta. As an Atlanta Hawks fan, don't really like this pick. I miss him. He's a great guy. This season had a breakout. He had a season as a breakout season. Injuries in the past, but I just feel like he was going to be the 6th man. As you can see, his average 18.8 a game, 46 from the field goal percent. This guy is coming from the bench, 6th man. This guy here, he can get the guy. I mean, he can score the ball. Great defender. He's not scared to shoot the ball. He's not afraid of nobody. He's not afraid of Victor Wembanyama, who he dunked on. He's not afraid of LeBron James, the greatest of all time, in my opinion. He's not afraid of any good elite offensive player, and I feel like he's that type of guy that Cleveland Cavaliers love. He's going to be great on that starting 5. I know Devontae Mitchell, I know the Cleveland fans, I know the Cleveland organization loves this. As an Atlanta native, I don't like it, but Cleveland, DeAndre Hunter, good luck.
Yeah, that's a great pick, Titus. Well, speaking of not so great rotation players, I'm going now with Kyle Kuzma going to the Bucks, and Chris Middleton will be going to the Warriors in exchange. I am kind of baffled by this trade. I've been very outspoken in my hate for Kyle Kuzma on this show. And frankly, I think this is a bad move for the Bucks. I think they're trading away a proven winner for, frankly, a proven bum. Kyle Kuzma really doesn't bring much to this Bucks team. They brought him in because I think they really have been a bad rebounding and transition team this year. They're trying to build some size, some athleticism. And so I see the reasoning for bringing in Kuzma, who has a bit more of that, over Chris Middleton. But here's the thing about Kyle Kuzma. He's shooting 28% from 3. That is atrocious. And especially on a team like the Bucks now, where the attention's going to be on Dame, going to be on Giannis. That means that Kyle Kuzma is going to be getting a lot of open looks. if you're shooting 28% from 3, I don't like that. And say what you will about him being decent with the Wizards. Being decent on the Wizards is like being the best player on your JV team, which, like, good for you, but who cares? You're on JV for a reason, you know? So I don't see a reason for this. But overall, some really great trades, and it's going to be exciting to see how they all pan out. Back to you, Noah.
All right, guys, let's see how everything shapes up after the All-Star break. But sticking to the hardwood, the NBA isn't the only basketball league with major changes. Let's check in on the wildly changing landscape of the WNBA with Olivia Holub and Cam Veal. Now, Olivia, obvious thing to mention is a pretty major trade.
Yeah, so when we're talking about WNBA trades, the biggest one that just happened is Kelsey Plum and Jewel Lloyd, which is a big trade. Kelsey Plum just got traded to the Sparks, which I think is honestly a good move. She was looking to get out of the Aces. The Sparks are kind of in their rebuilding era. They really just needed a leader. She's like kind of getting close to that veteran-ish in the WNBA.
Right.
And they're just looking for a leader. And with her and Cam Brink, I think it will be a really good team. And they got some other people. And I think the Sparks are looking pretty good this year. And then Jewel Lloyd to the Aces. I think that's a pretty good trade too. I think her with Asia Wilson is going to look real nice this year.
Yeah.
They're, again, just vets. Like, they're good players, solid players that are making the league look really nice.
It was an interesting trade for both teams because I don't think there was a loss for either side.
Yeah.
But I do have to say, though, in terms of notoriety, for example, Kelsey Plum to the Sparks, getting the ball to a forward like Cameron Brink, coming off of her injury, obviously, in her rookie season. But when she was healthy, she was playing like the Defensive Player of the Year.
Yeah.
I mean, she was unbelievable.
She was doing great things. Also, I think partnering Kelsey Plum with Derek Hamby,
Yes.
that's that Aces connection. They've played together, and they've been playing together so well with Cam Brink. I think the LA Sparks, they've rebuilt themselves very quickly, and I think that's very impressive. And the Aces, they're losing out of players, but they're plugging the holes. Still, I wouldn't categorize them as a sinking ship, but they're getting there. One sinking ship, though, the Connecticut Sun.
Ooh! Where did all their players
Oh
go?
my God!
Where did their players go?
They lost their entire starting 5 from the playoffs, and this is a team that went to the semifinals of the WNBA playoffs.
Yes.
They lost to the Lynx. They went far. They looked like such a good team, and it baffles me how, as an organization, you can lose your starting 5.
Well, I can tell you why. They play in Mystic, Connecticut.
Yeah, that might be part of it. Another reason I think they lost their head coach.
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
Yeah.
And I've been hearing talks about their locker room not being the best, their facilities not being the best.
Right. Why play for a franchise that doesn't treat you like you should be treated?
Exactly. And I'll just read off the list. Dejanai Carrington and Ty Harris both went to Dallas. Alyssa Thomas to the Mercury. I know you're happy about that, Olivia.
Yeah.
DeWanna Bonner to the Fever, and Breonna Jones to the Dream. Absolute insanity. And what they get out of that is the 8th overall pick. Not bad.
Okay.
Natasha Cloud, J.C. Selden, Rebecca Allen, Diamond DeShields, and veteran Tina Charles. I think it's a good pickup, but out of everyone they're losing.
Right. They're undoubtedly a worse team.
Oh, yeah.
It's terrible, and they were doing so well. And also, veteran Marina Maybury, who you can see on the screen in the highlights, she requested a trade, and she was only there for like 3 months, which is insane. And what is happening with this team? It just doesn't make sense to me. They were in a really good position at the beginning of the season, and they went far in the playoffs. Now they're just looking like a bottom team. Are they tanking for Juju? I feel like that is the real question.
Or Paige Beckers. Keep Paige in Connecticut.
Well, the Dallas is getting the first pick. Dallas made amazing additions with Dejanay and Ty Harris and Nalissa Smith going to that team. I think Dallas, they rebuilt quicker than the Sparks.
Yeah.
They're rebuilding quicker than the Fever. They're building around Paige. That's incredible.
All right, we've talked about the NBA. We've talked about the WNBA. Let's look at this from a macro lens. Is women's basketball overtaking men's in popularity? We're talking college, we're talking pros, names, brands, everything. Cam and Olivia join me again, as well as the incredible Evan Sharrard. Cam, I'm going to start with you again here. You've got a kind of yes and no take.
Yeah, I think it's a complicated situation. I don't think the WNBA, as it stands right now, can overtake the NBA as in popularity and star power specifically.
And why?
Well, the NBA, you have big names. You have LeBron, you have Luka, you have Anthony Edwards. The WNBA, you really got Caitlin Clark right now. That's the casual fans are going to know that. Everyone knows LeBron. People know Caitlin Clark. They know Asia kind of, that's big, especially with her in Banff.
Angel Reese too.
Angel Reese. Yeah. But I think with women's college basketball, there's an opportunity to build these players up, not only as talented basketball players, but as personalities.
Right.
I think any casual basketball fan, they know about Paige Beckers, right? Most college basketball fans, they know about Juju. And these are players that are coming into the league, and they're going to add a lot to the star power and people watching. When CC came into the league, viewership spiked immediately. That's what happens when you have the star power. And I think especially with March Madness, the women's game has been getting more viewers than the men's March Madness games. That's just a beautiful thing to see these storylines play out, and these players get these opportunities. There's heartbreak, there's success, there's revenge. You don't really get that in men's college basketball with one and done.
Yeah, I love that. Now, Olivia, I'm going to head to you because you're going to try kind of jump off of the back of what Cam was saying.
Yeah, I definitely think the main reason women's college basketball has grown so much is the one and done.
Right.
So men, they have to stay 1 year and then they go off to the league or the draft, and you don't really get to build that familiarity with them. Like a lot of these college fans are alumni, and they're not going to go for a random college team. They're really, all their support's for this team.
Right.
And again, like Caitlin Clark, Paige Beckers, all women have to stay 3 years. A lot of them stay all 4 because of NIL. They make a lot more money in NIL than they would in the WNBA.
Right.
But like UConn, Iowa,
USC.
they were there for 4 years.
Right.
You're building that like camaraderie, and
Right.
you're getting a team to stick together, and it brings in more people because they're not going away after 1 year.
And I'll add to this example, I think about college football having to be required to stay there until you're at least a redshirt sophomore. You've been there for 3 years. That's why you have big names like Shedeur Sanders. You had big names like Ashton Genty. In the past, I mean, look at how hyped up of a prospect some of these guys have got, like Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck went to Stanford. Now, I don't know if any of you watching know anything about Stanford, but Stanford, while being an athletic school, it's a West Coast Ivy. It's like if someone became popular in Princeton. So the notoriety, like you're saying, of being at school for more than just a year, I completely agree. It gives you a chance to get to know these players more. Yeah. Now, Evan, what are you going to add to this?
So much. First of all, Olivia, what you said about the one and done made me think about the ability for the women's college basketball game to build these players up because they have that time. Yep. The players that do get built up when they are in college and men's are the players that don't end up playing a big role in the NBA. Right. The players that get built up in college for women's basketball, they play in the WNBA, and you know that Caitlin Clark and crew are going to have a career. 100%. You're watching them after they leave college basketball as well. Yeah. So it's great for the game overall. But, I mean, there are some highlights that I'm not sure if they're going to show, but I wanted to talk a lot about the all-time highlights that college basketball brings, because not only can any team really compete with anybody, but the moments that are made there, there's only one chance that some of these people have at the largest stage, 64-team tournament. Some kid makes a shot, he never does it again. That's it. It's incredible to watch college basketball. I love it, and I think the women's game will overtake the men's if it hasn't.
I think we can all agree that college basketball is where it's at.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree, guys. I think that you mentioned Chris Jenkins. But very quickly, we're going to head back to a commercial break. But when we come back, we're going to a lot more of all these new talent, all these returners, and a little bit of a surprise with Cam's own special segment. Catch us right back. Welcome back to the season 19 premiere of the Box Score. Now, just last week, the New York Times obtained more than 300 emails detailing an effort by the New Orleans Saints to aid the Catholic Church in crisis management over a sex abuse scandal. Here to talk about the major news and what comes next is Everest Leach. Now, Everest, where are we right now?
So right now, as you kind of led us into, there are a lot of reports alleging that the New Orleans Saints, for lack of a better term, partnered with the city of New Orleans, the Archdiocese of New Orleans, in helping cover up the church's sexual abuse cases and that whole crisis. And not only did they help the church cover it up, it's alleged that the team knowingly mitigated or diminished how much they helped when this originally got brought up. And I think what's important to take note of right now is, yes, we're talking about this on this show because the Saints are involved. It is an NFL team that is in the mix here, but this is a human issue.
Right.
And this issue, like, that has become a cover-up started with victims and with people, thousands of people who were affected.
Absolutely.
I think our hearts go out to them, but there hasn't really been much done by the NFL to this point.
That's what I was about to ask you is, when does the NFL step in here? And when do forces above the NFL decide to step in? Because it just, at this point, feels like an example, like time and time again, of the Catholic Church having a scandal and it conveniently being covered up.
Yeah, for sure. I think the NFL absolutely needs to get involved. I mean, this directly goes against things that are in their bylines and their websites that say what they're for. The NFL has taken a stance, at least in text and in what they're saying, against anything like this. Now we need to see the actions to actually bring consequences upon the Saints. And as far as the media, that's a whole issue too, because this story came out a little over a week ago now, and it was big when it first came out, and it feels like the forces that be may have already swept it under the rug again. I haven't seen people talking about this, and it needs to be.
I agree, and I think it's a consequence, particularly of the 24-hour news cycle. There's always all this stuff happening. You're hearing one thing, another thing. But I appreciate you taking the time to sit down with me and talk about the issue and why it matters. So
it absolutely does matter.
Yeah, I appreciate it. We're going to swing it to the triple monitor now for Titus and Evan, who are going to talk about Myles Garrett's trade request. Now, with every trade request comes trade rumors, and we're going to have them talk about where they think that one of the premier edge rushers in the NFL should go. So, Titus, take it away.
Thank you, Noah. I definitely think that Myles Garrett is going to go to the Washington Commanders. He's an elite pass rusher, as you mentioned. Their team literally, I feel like they went great last season, and they went 14-6, and they lost against the Eagles in the NFC divisional conference round. But hey, I just feel like the Commanders are a team where he could be at. They made it to the playoffs. Jaden Daniels is doing great. He won Offensive Rookie of the Year. Myles Garrett, with that size and speed and strength, I'm trying to tell you, that man Dan Quinn is going to love having Myles Garrett as the Commanders. He's a defensive player, man. I see him as a Aaron Donald, J.J. Watt, T.J. Watt. He's a great edge runner. And I just feel like the Commanders is just going to love this guy. The offensive line definitely doesn't like to see him coming. I know he's a great person. He just loves to be dominant, an edge rusher, elite pass rusher. I just feel like he's one of the most best defensive rusher in the NFL right now. And I just feel like the Washington Commanders, I just feel like that's a great team where he could be at. The defense was stacked. I know they could do better in the offseason, and I just feel like Myles Garrett is going to have to be a part of that team. And that offensive team is awesome, and I just feel like Dan Quinn is going to be on a mission to try to get that guy Myles Garrett on that team. I hope, Washington Commanders, I hope y'all hear me.
Those are great points.
Thank you.
I wanted to get a little bit out there with mine because I think there are a lot of rumors. Oh, the Bills would be a great fit. They got a lot of money. They need that extra push. I wanted to go with a team that you might not be thinking about. I picked the Detroit Lions. Now, they don't have a ton of money right now. This is going to be a blockbuster if this happens. So the Lions lose in their first playoff game they play this season. They were the best team in the league. And this was sort of the expectation year for them to make the Super Bowl, make that jump. Yeah, Detroit, they'd never been. I think they're going to make it this year. Despite all those years with Barry Sanders, they never did it. They still haven't done it. They didn't even beat the Washington Commanders. And so for them to make this trade, I'm thinking this is going to have to be huge. And it would almost ask the question, is it worth giving up Panay Sewell, which is such a young player, arguably the best tackle in the league? That's a tough ask. I think if you really want to blow it up, you really want to show the league, you know what, we're not satisfied with how good we are right now, that kind of blockbuster could shake some things up. Myles Garrett would look great in blue and gray.
I appreciate it, guys. Thank you very much. Now, we're going to talk about a contentious issue in the National Hockey League. Rookie of the Year debate. It comes around every year. You know, we had the Connor Bedard year. It was a little easy to get by with. But this year, hotly contested. Joining me is Cam Veal and once again Evan Sharrard. Now, guys, give me your picks, Cam. You've got a strong opinion.
Yeah. I'm all out for celebrating for Celebrini.
Okay.
I think I'm a big fan of a good Calder Trophy race. I think this is the first real race we've had since maybe Moritz Seider, Trevor Rodriguez, but I'm thinking more Cale Makar and Quinn Hughes. They're really, Celebrini, man, he's just so beautiful. The way he plays his game, he flows so well. He's got 40 points in 45 games. He missed 12 due to injury. He is putting the Sharks team on his back. His influence is not unnoticed. He is the team. He's their franchise center. The Sharks are doing better with him, and without him, they suffer. And I think that's why he's got a little bit of an edge over his competition. That, and he's also a rookie leading his team in points.
Right, and that's a fair assessment. Evan, you're going to push back about this a little bit.
Yeah, so I really wanted to take a different perspective because, again, Cam, everything you said is absolutely true. And from the traditional lens, I think, Macklin Celebrini runs away with this. But when we're looking at the value of player adds, a team like Montreal has missed someone like Lane Hudson for years. After they traded Shea Weber, they really haven't had a defense, or sorry, not after they traded Shea Weber. After they traded PK Subban for Shea Weber, it just kind of seemed like they were missing any sort of offensive punch from their defensemen. And he's provided 3 goals and 38 assists. He's incredible on the power play. He moves the puck really well. This is something that they haven't had on the back end in a long time. They're competing more so than they have in the past. They were ahead of the Bruins in the standings just about a week and a half ago. They're currently in 7th in the Atlantic, which is 7 of 8. But it's a great sign for a team that's got so many young, great forwards and are still struggling to figure out that goaltending situation. Getting a guy in the second round in 2022 who's playing as well as he is now, fighting for that Rookie of the Year spot, that's impressive.
Yeah.
I agree. I think Lane was a steal, but you got to really put your money on someone who's putting the team on his back as a 19-year-old kid. Lane Hudson is going to have a beautiful career. He's a stud. But Macklin Celebrini, he's your franchise guy. He's their next Joe Thornton, probably a little bit better than Joe Thornton.
Yeah.
He's going to be the guy to take them to the Stanley Cup if they ever make it that far.
All right, listen, I'm going to have to cut you guys off. We're cut for time, but we're going to head to our final commercial break. But stay right there, because when we come back, we have Cam and Titus talking about Cooper Kupp. Evan and Everest talking a little smack against each other. And then, once again, you'll see Cam for her own very special segment that she really doesn't know all that much about. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the season premiere of the Box Score. Now, I'm joined by Cam Veal, Titus Graves. We're talking a little bit about Cooper Kupp. Him and the Rams are having a little bit of a messy divorce, messier than I think we all would have thought. But Cam, you're going to tell me where you think Cooper Kupp can land and make an impact.
I think this is a little out there, and I think that this is a little bit of a dark horse.
Okay.
I'm thinking the Green Bay Packers.
Interesting.
I think for someone like Cooper Kupp, you won the Triple Crown, you won the Super Bowl, you're getting up there in age. I think he's got a little bit left to prove after being sidelined by the Rams, and I think the Packers are a great destination for him. They need a true wide receiver one. Jordan Love, I think he needs someone that he can consistently throw the ball to and get up there. He's great on the run game. He gets a lot of his yards on the rush. And with Jaden Reed and Christian Watson out, you need some stability. The Packers need the stability.
Well, so that's where I'm going to push back on you just a little bit, because you're talking about stability at the wide receiver position, but Cooper Kupp is always hurt.
Well, I think, you got to put the money in there, maybe. You know, if you say he's healthy, a little money. I think putting him on a one-year deal, something simple, something that can get him on his footing. He's got a lot to prove. And they're already shopping out for Romeo Dubes. I mean, your Jets, Garrett Wilson, he might be a backer soon.
No, he won't.
Well, I'm just saying, if you have Cooper Kupp.
Not on my watch. He's going to get every bacon, egg, and cheese he wants.
From Aaron Rodgers? I don't know about that.
From me. I'll play freaking quarterback if it means keeping Garrett Wilson.
But I'm saying if you put Cooper Kupp, a veteran presence, on a one-year deal, you have the cap space. They have $42 million in cap space. You can comfortably fit his contract, put him in. That'll elevate your already good enough wide receivers to be a little bit better. You maybe shop around for someone younger. You get him out on his way. Everyone's happy. I think it's a good destination for him.
Yeah, I see the argument there, but you're going to push back. You have a different destination.
Yeah. I don't disagree with Cam, but I just honestly think Cooper Kupp, if you hear me out there, let's consider, man, please.
Okay.
Cincinnati Eagles, you got Joe Burrow. You got, Jamar Chase. That's a great LSU wide receiver with that combo with Joe Burrow being a quarterback from LSU. But I just feel like he's an elite route runner.
Yes.
He's reliable. He is a vet player that you can get on that team and just throw him the ball. You get him on the zig route. You get him on that slant route, especially on a third down. And even in that red zone, man, I'm trying to tell you, Cincinnati, hear me out. Y'all are going to love him. I know y'all don't like him about that Super Bowl and that MVP. And I know he led that team in the NFL in receptions, TDs, and yards in 2021. And I know he got that Super Bowl MVP in 2022 against them. But, hey, hear me out. Cincinnati, I just feel like that would be a great wide receiver. Joe Burrow would love it.
And with
Jamar
T.
Chase
Higgins
would love
potentially leaving.
And what I'm trying to tell you, Zach Taylor, head coach, you're going to love that. Let's get my guy Cooper Kupp out there.
Yeah, I got to agree. T. Higgins possibly on the outs. Give Joe Burrow potentially even more offensive firepower. It's a little scary. It's looking like scary hours in Cincinnati, but I think they need to beef off that offensive line first a little bit. But moving on, we're going to talk a little bit more football. We're going to talk a little bit about the Super Bowl one more time. Evan and Everest are going to join me as we talk about the Chiefs dynasty. What does it mean that they lost? Where are we now? Evan, I'm going to start with you.
Sure.
What are we looking at in terms of the legacy of this Chiefs dynasty finally looking vulnerable against the Chiefs, looking like they were exposed?
Yeah. Well, I have a boring answer.
Okay.
We're going to know in a couple years. That's the answer. Because right now,
that is the
what
boring
you
answer.
just said is they're finally vulnerable.
Right.
If they won this Super Bowl and then they won the next Super Bowl, you win 4 straight. First of all, no team's ever won 3 straight. I'm sure that was battered down your throat like buttermilk during the Super Bowl. But my goodness, 4 straight would be insane. 3 straight would be insane.
Yeah.
They won 2 straight, and then they had a colossal loss in this game where people are, frankly, in my opinion, overreacting over Patrick Mahomes' performance.
Yes.
And also seeing a team like the Chiefs lose like that when it really was a lot of hype that got them to being like, oh, they were the favorites. If you look at and you really analyze the teams there, the Eagles were the best team on paper all year.
100%.
My pick for the Super Bowl midway through the season. And they really did execute. That's what it comes down to. But with the Chiefs, they are the best team of the 2020s, without a doubt, even though we're only halfway through it. And they are arguably the second greatest dynasty, if not the first, depending on how you go about it, of all time.
Behind who?
New England, without a doubt.
But New England over what period? Because that's where I know Everest is going to push back.
Well, I know that. But how about this? What is there to say about greatness, if not what is required is consistency.
Well, right, and we're looking at it right now.
And all we're watching are the highlights of the, in air quotes, second dynasty, where they won 3 Super Bowls. There's a lot of luck involved in these plays, but there was a lot of luck involved in every team that's ever won a championship.
You look at the New York Giants against
you gotta be lucky to be good, and you gotta be good to be lucky.
Where I would still push back on this though is we just haven't had the time with Kansas City yet. Who knows if Mahomes plays at this high of a level for another 10 years like Brady did.
Hence why I said wait and see.
Brady won his 4th Super Bowl at 37.
Right.
Mahomes already has 3 now. Yes, the loss against the Eagles looks bad, but I still think, depending on what you consider the Patriots dynasty, this Chiefs run is like maybe the best 6-year run in the history of the National Football League. You go
absolutely
Super Bowl victory, Super Bowl loss, AFC Championship loss, Super Bowl win, and a Super Bowl loss. That's 6 years. I don't know if the Patriots
The
beat that.
reason I'm going to push back is the fashion in which the Patriots won their 2 Super Bowls before they beat the Rams. Actually, include that one. I argued at the time with so many people who watched that the Rams-Patriots Super Bowl 13-3 was the best game of football I'd ever seen played because of how well the strategies were executed. Both teams executed perfectly. The run game was stopped by the Patriots, and the Patriots couldn't pass anywhere. It was perfect defense, and the better team ended up winning the game by making hard-nosed football plays. The Patriots came back from 25-3 down and won a Super Bowl.
28-3.
28-3, thank you. What, making my point, thank you.
I know,
What did the Chiefs do?
I mean, they've come back from a 10-point deficit in every single Super Bowl that Mahomes
But what
has
happened
won
when they faced that adversity, down 17-0? What happened when they were the favorite against the Buccaneers with Tom Brady, the dynasty head of the Patriots?
Were the Giants the favorite in 2007?
That happened twice. But the Patriots made the greatest comeback, points-wise, in playoff history.
Sure. I mean, the Chiefs came back 24-0 against the Texans to make
Was
a
that
Super
the Super Bowl?
Which they won. No, it wasn't. But the other piece of this
Some
that
people
I
do
would
say that the AFC Championship is a
tougher to win.
Tougher win. Because it's the pressure of making it to the Super Bowl.
I think
the
it's
other
tougher
piece
to
I
win
want
when
to
you're
add.
down by 25.
I mean, I would agree.
The other piece I want to add before we get out of here, if you look at it in terms of conference dominance, because the Cincinnati Bengals and Joe Burrow lost that Super Bowl, look at the AFC under Kansas City. Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, you want to throw a C.J. Stroud in there on the rise, all shut out of rings.
Okay, listen.
Ben Roethlisberger still got his. Peyton Manning still got his.
Listen, I'm going to I love a heated rivalry here at the desk. I love it. It's going to continue off camera. But alas, we head to our final segment of the night. We're going to switch things up and do what has become a fan favorite on Twitter with Stephen A. Smith. Cam is going to be at the Triple Monitor, and we're going to show her 4 tweets that she's never seen before. Her job is to react to those and analyze them just like if she had to on a segment with somebody else. Now, what she doesn't know is that these tweets are not super serious, and not all of them are about football. So, Cam, please take it away.
Well, first of all, you guys make me giggle. That was really silly. Let's see what the first tweet is. Oh, okay. Let me just see. I honestly believe when all is said and done, Saquon's biggest regret of his career will be signing with Philly. Girl, are you being serious right now? If you're going from the Giants with Daniel Jones to Jalen Hurts, even if he tore his ACL in the first game, I would be happier than playing on the Giants. Are you kidding me? Look at him. He's so happy. He won a Super Bowl, for God's sake. Bobby Spence, if you hear me, you are dumb. Next one. I want the next one. Okay. Me when I'm at my sister's wedding. Me when it's Luka debut. I don't have a sister, but if I did, I think I would rather watch Luka play for the Lakers, even though, I'm not a huge Lakers fan, and I wasn't a huge Mavs fan, but I watched this really good YouTube video, and I'm going to plug it to everyone. It's about Luka's journey to the NBA from Slovenia, and, after watching that video, I think I'm going to have to wear, the Jalen Hurts purple suit to the Luka debut, and then I'll probably just wear, whatever Noah's wearing to sister's wedding, because it's not that great. No tea, no shade. Next. Travis Scott says he wants to work with Sabrina Carpenter and Taylor Swift. This might be crazy, but I would love to get Taylor Swift or Sabrina Carpenter on a hook. I have some ideas. All I can say is, please, please, please make this happen. All I'm seeing is the next Super Bowl halftime show headliners. Like, if we're gonna go straight from Nightcrawler to You Belong With Me to Espresso, all I'm gonna say is I think there might be some dancing involved, like some moves. I mean, are you kidding me? That's just the greatest thing I've ever heard. I loved the Kendrick halftime show. I think it was perfect. I think this might be like just one itty bitty teeny tiny step below perfect, because I think their sounds just mesh really well together. You know, I feel like Love Story, Travis Scott, Sabrina Carpenter, that's where I want to be. Let's hit the next tweet. Stephen A. Smith is gaining attention as a possible Democratic candidate for the 2028 presidential election. Okay, first of all, I think he's a libertarian, but we can talk about that another time. I don't think I would vote for Stephen A. He's made some bad decisions, and a lot of the things he says aren't smart. I would really like to know, like, what his proposed tax cuts would be. Like, does he even know what a recession is, or does he think that's when the basketball net, like, swoops in and out, like recess, you know, that kind of stuff? I would love to sit down with him, like Diane Sawyer style, and, like, see what he's thinking, because I feel like his inauguration party would be really funny, though. Like, you get Shannon, you get Barkley, Shaq. It would be a party for sure, but I feel like the housing market may or may not crash. Is that the last tweet? I think so. This was really good, and if you're on Twitter, please tweet about Sonic 3 so I can talk about that next time. Noah, back to you.
Thank you so much, Cam. That may be the most eventful way we've ever ended a box score episode in history. Oh my goodness. Well, thank you everyone for watching the season 19 premiere of the Box Score. Tune in for episode 2 and make sure to keep up to date with everything Box Score on our Instagram at EIV Box Score. I've been your host, Noah Berkowitz. Good night.